Hello, everyone. Welcome and welcome back to Grow Green with Vanessa. Today, I want to break down everything you should be planting in Zone 6A in March. March is one of those tricky months. It's a time when we really have to start preparing indoor so that we can have a successful season outdoors. And it's also a time when we may be able to direct sow some of our vegetables outside. So I want to quickly review those things, make sure that you're on track and that you have a successful entire season. So let's talk a little bit about March. So March is not that month where, at least in Zone 6A, it's not that month when spring arrives. Usually it's still cold. 2 days ago, we actually got 2 inches of snow and it was 22 degrees, somewhere in that. So it was still cold outside. So we know that the ground is still frozen and you really can't put anything outside until the ground is workable. It can't be frozen, it can't be muddy. It needs to be workable soil in order for you to put anything outside. So at times, even though it feels like it might be spring, we had a couple 60 and 70 degree days, we still are dealing with cold temperatures, random freezes, and also a late frost date. Our last frost date is April the 26th for this area. So really, March is not about planting everything. March is about planting everything in the right place. That is what March is about. So let's start with the most important thing, and that will be our indoor planting for our seedlings. You joined me about a week ago when we planted our brassicas. We planted cabbage and kohlrabi and collards and kale, our broccoli, our cauliflower. Those things are on the grow mat. I'm still waiting for germination to occur, and it does take a while for germination for some of those brassicas, 7 to 14 plus days. So I don't expect for them to have germinated by now. Really, I'm looking at germination sometime next week. But those are the things that you want to get started if you're starting your seedlings indoor. Now, if you plan not to do that, that is perfectly okay too. There have been several times when I've had to rely on the big box stores or the local nursery. Even when I have planned to grow some things, year before last, I started my own seedlings for kale. Put the kale out in the garden, and then they were overtaken by aphids, which I could not conquer. I used my neem oil. I believe I started out with one of these soaps, and I used that soap, and then I used the neem oil, then I used the neem oil mixed with the soap. I just could not get a hold of the aphids, and they destroyed the kale. I went to the nursery and I picked up some kale transplants. And that is okay. But if you're planning on growing those things indoor, now is the time. Yes, we are getting closer to the end of March, but you still have time. Go ahead and start those things indoor if that is your intention. Start those things today. They all take time to grow strong enough indoors for you to put them outside. So if you do fall behind, you won't have the luxury of catching up. When we have these really short growing seasons, you don't have a lot of time to restart things. So again, if you don't plan on starting anything, or if your seedlings that you started did not germinate well, or they're not healthy seedlings, do not fret. If you're starting your seedlings indoor, make sure that you have grow lights or a very sunny south-facing window. Depending on the amount of sun that you have coming in that window, it may be enough. But if not, you can always pick up a set of grow lights to support them until you can get them planted outdoors. Make sure also that you are keeping them warm. I thought that I would start all of my seedlings downstairs in the basement, but it was just way too cool downstairs. So I had to make a makeshift station in our den, just so that I can start my seedlings. And then you also want to make sure that you don't overwater your seedlings. Don't overwater your seedlings. You can always check to see if the soil is moist, and if the soil is moist, it doesn't need to be watered. So that's very important. These are very small plants and they cannot accommodate a large amount of water. Now those three things can really separate an okay garden from a very productive one. So do baby your seedlings while you have the opportunity to care for them indoors. You can plant some things in March. Those things that are cold hardy can be planted out in March. Once your soil is workable, not frozen, not muddy, not covered in snow, you can direct sow. And these are some of the things that you can safely put out in your garden in March. Your peas, your carrots, lettuce, beets, radishes, and don't forget your kale. These crops actually like a colder temperature, and they can handle light frost. So they're perfect for planting in the right conditions and the right temperature. And if you're growing flowers, we can't forget the flowers, right? We have to have the pollinators. You can also direct sow your sweet peas as well as your poppies right now. And as far as starting things indoor, you can start your zinnias now indoor, as well as your marigolds. You started some marigolds with me last week as well. We started the lemon drop marigold and one of the African marigolds. But remember, the same conditions apply. You have to have workable soil and your ground cannot be frozen. Before you go planting anything outdoor, here are a few quick tips. From my own experience, don't rush to put anything outside. It's better to leave your seedlings inside for an additional 7 to 14 days where they're nice and warm and cared for, instead of putting them outside where it's too cold, you get an unexpected frost, and your seedlings are unable to make it and they perish. If you do put your seedlings outdoors, try to protect them. Maybe use a roll cover or a greenhouse or whatever type of apparatus that you can use to keep them warmer than the air temperature. And there are a lot of things on the market now. I purchased like a greenhouse cover for my raised beds. And so I'm going to try to use them this year. I'm still a little hesitant about putting my things out too early because I don't want to lose them. So I plan on planting everything outdoors after my frost date, which is estimated to be April 26th, but I will have the greenhouse covers up. Do remember that the temperature in your raised beds normally is warmer than the temperature in the ground. So there are some plants that need your ground temperature to be at least 50 degrees, like your tomatoes. And don't forget what you should be doing to have continuous harvest for certain things, like your radishes. Radishes normally will germinate fast, as well as you being able to harvest them quickly. Most radishes, smaller radishes, the harvest is within 28 days. And the same goes with lettuce. Lettuce is ready pretty early. So if you're that person that would like to have fresh radishes and lettuce, then make sure that you are planting them every week or every 2 weeks, depending on how quickly you plan to eat them from your garden. So just try to remember this order. Indoor crops first, cold hardy crops outside, everything else inside. If you follow that, your garden will be well on its way to being successful in the spring. I hope these tips help. If they do, drop me a line. Let me know if they have. Let me know where you're planting, what zone you're in, what state you're in, what you've been able to put out in your garden. Thank you again for joining me today. I appreciate each time you devote time to listen to one of my videos. I greatly appreciate it. And remember, find your joy. Mine, always, gardening and retirement. Bye.